Shalom. I am Ban Shemayim, your friendly neighborhood brew. And today's video is going to be called Leah, the example to all wives. How to fight your feelings with faith. Right? As you can see from this picture, it says biblical submission is a powerful choice because it is a choice. It's a choice to submit to your husband the same way it's a choice to submit to Christ. Now, we know the story of Leah and Rachel, and that is what we're going to go into today, the story of Leah and Rachel, because in modern times, people have been married so many times. Marriage, according to the Bible, is when two become one flesh, right? And that's when you lay together or have intercourse, right? You're married. So it's when two people become one flesh. So because of that, people have been married to so many people with short range commitments, right? That they use those commitments that they previously had, like what another person would have done when they were together with them, to justify their feelings or to think, or Satan uses it, not people, because this is a battle between good and evil. Satan does this. And he uses this as an excuse to think, well, listen, they don't love me because other people treated me this way. But the marriages that they had previously didn't last, and most of them were done in sin and was for a short time. I want to read this on the page. It says, an excellent wife is the crown of her husband. She who shames him is rottenness in his bones. This is Proverbs 12:4. Now, the story of this is these feelings that you get from dealing with all of these different people make people not want to put the effort in to fulfill their marriage, to be righteous. So instead it becomes a pointing the finger. So we're going to go into the story of Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, because Leah was hated by Jacob. He didn't want to marry her. And then when he married her, he still wanted to marry her sister. And then after he married her sister, he still loved her sister more than her. So we're going to go into that, and we're going to go into, and that's going to be in Yasher. And then in Jubilees, we're going to go into what happened when Leah died, because that isn't spoken about in the Bible. So in the end, before Leah passes, Jacob loves her more than he's loved anybody. He loves her more than he loved Rebecca. He loves her, I mean, not Rebecca, but Rachel. I'm sorry, Salakia. He loves her more than he loved anybody. She would have been his first choice at the end of the day. And she only became that way because she endured through the first part of their marriage, through the first part of their life. And this is crucial because Jacob really hated her. It wasn't like he just didn't do things other men did that made her feel valuable. Like, Jacob really didn't like her. But instead of her casting away Jacob or doing away with Jacob, what did she do? She asked God for help. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start off in the book of Yasher, chapter 31. This is where we're going to get that story. It says, in the 7th year, Jacob's service, which he served Laban, was completed. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled. And Laban did so. And Laban and Jacob assembled all the people of that place, and they made a feast. And in the evening Laban came to the house, and afterward Jacob came there with the people of the feast. And Laban extinguished all the lights that were there in the house. And Jacob said unto Laban, wherefore doest thou do this thing unto us? And Laban answered, such is our custom, to act in this land. And afterwards Laban took his daughter Leah, and he brought her to Jacob. And he came to her, and Jacob did not know that she was Leah. And Laban gave his daughter Leah, made Ziphilah, for a handmaid. And all the people at the feast knew what Laban had done to Jacob, but they did not tell the thing to Jacob. And all of the neighbors came that night to Jacob's house, and they ate and drank and rejoiced, and played before Leah upon trembles with dances, and they responded before Jacob, Helah, Helah, right? So even though all of this was happening, Jacob didn't pick up on the fact that he was about to be married to Leah and not married to Rachel, which was the one he loved, right? That was the one he loved on first sight. So he was being tricked this whole time. They turned the lights off on him. You know, they were praising her in the little ceremony. So everything was set up for her. But Jacob didn't know this. He had no idea. Now, I wanted to go into something first since we're on this part before we go to the next section of the scriptures. If you notice, there was no document telling them that they were married. There was no marriage license, which this is what people in America and this wicked country has forced people to believe a marriage license is marriage. No, it's laying down. He told him he would let him marry his daughter. It was supposed to be Rachel, but then he put Leah in place. So once he laid with Leah and took her innocence, Leah was his wife. Period. All of these other things that we use nowadays to justify that a person is not married to another person is madness. It's clearly shown all throughout the Bible that when two people come together, like when Isaac laid with his wife, after his mother passed, his wife showed up and they went into his mother's tent. They laid together and they were married. They became one at that moment. So this shows that the custom of marriage is sex. It's not a piece of paper. It's not a ring. It's not what this wicked world teaches people to. And then now you have these standards that if a person doesn't meet or match these things, they don't love you or it isn't marriage, right? That's not the case. Let's continue. It says, and Jacob heard their words, but did not understand their meaning. But he thought, such might be their custom in this land. And the neighbors spoke these words before Jacob during the night. And all the lights that were in the house of Laban that night had extinguished. And in the morning, when daylight appeared, Jacob turned to his wife, and he saw, and behold, it was Leah that had been lying in his bosom. And Jacob said, behold now, I knew what the neighbor said last night. Helah, they said. I knew it not. And Jacob called unto Laban and said unto him, what is this that thou hast done unto me? Surely I served thee for Rachel. And why didst thou deceive me and didst give me Leah? And Laban answered Jacob, saying, not so. It is done in our place to give the younger before the elder. It says, not so is it done in our place to give the younger before the elder. Therefore, if thou desirest to take her sister likewise, take her unto thee for the service which thou wilt serve me for another 7 years. So he's saying like, and Jacob did so. And he also took Rachel for a wife, and he served Laban 7 years more. And Jacob also came to Rachel, and he loved Rachel more than Leah. And Laban gave her his maid Bilhah for a handmaid. Right? So he came to him, and Jacob came to him, and he was like, listen, why did you do this? You knew like I wanted to marry Rachel. We had a verbal contract that I was going to marry Rachel, but then you put her in my bed and now I'm married to her. So Laban was like, look, just work for me 7 more years and you could get the younger. You could get the youngest too. It's not a it's against our custom to let the youngest daughter marry before the oldest. So we had to have you marry Leah. And it shows right here that he loved Rachel more than Leah, right? But when we go a little bit further, it's going to actually show that Jacob hated Leah, right? He hated Leah, which is more than loving somebody else more. Like he hated her. These are the words that's used in the scriptures. So let's continue. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, the Lord opened her womb, and she conceived and bare Jacob 4 sons in those days. And these are their names, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. And she afterwards left bearing. And at the time Rachel was barren, and she had no offspring. And Rachel envied her sister Leah. And when Rachel saw that she had no children to Jacob, she took her handmaid Bilhah, and she bare Jacob 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. Now notice, Rachel was loved more. This is why this is about feelings. Rachel was loved more, but she was jealous of Leah because God had blessed Leah and opened up her womb because Leah was loved the least. So even though Rachel had all the love of Jacob, and this is why we're talking about how Leah is an outstanding woman. Even though Rachel had all the love of Jacob, she was jealous of Leah because of the children, right? And when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she also took her handmaid Zilpah and she gave her to Jacob for a wife. And Jacob also came to Zilpah, and she also bare Jacob two sons, Gad and Asher. And Leah again conceived and bare Jacob in those days two sons and one daughter. And these are their names: Issachar, Zebulun, and their sister Dinah. And Rachel was still barren in those days. And Rachel prayed unto the Lord at that time. And she said, O Lord God, remember me and visit me, I beseech thee. For now my husband will cast me off, for I have borne him no children. Now, O Lord God, hear my supplication before thee, and see my affliction, and give me children like one of the handmaids, that I may no more bear my reproach. Right? So she's thinking that Jacob, remember, Jacob loves her more than everything. And she still thinks he don't want to be with me. He not trying to be with me. He gonna leave me. He's gonna cast me aside. See, Satan was getting into her head. He was getting into Rachel's head and manipulating her. When in reality, she had all the love she could have possibly desired. Even if she would have never had a child, Jacob loved her, right? And God heard her and opened her womb. And Rachel conceived and bare a son. And she said, the Lord has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another son. And Jacob was 91 years old when she bare him. At that time, Jacob's mother, Rebekah, sent her nurse, Deborah, the daughter of Uz, and two of Isaac's servants unto Jacob. And they came to Jacob in Haran, and they said unto him, Rebekah has sent us to thee, that thou shalt return to thy father's house, to the land of Canaan. And Jacob hearkened unto them in this which his mother had spoken. At that time, the other 7 years which Jacob served Laban for Rachel were completed. And it was at the end of the 14 years, and he had dwelt in Haran, that Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wives, and send me away, that I may go to my land. For behold, my mother did send unto me from the land of Canaan, that I should return to my father's house. And Laban said unto him, not so, I pray thee. If I have found favor in thy sight, do not leave me. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them, and remain with me. Right? So we know he was playing him all along. And we're not going to go into the in-depth of that story, but we know Laban was playing him, and Jacob, everything he was touching was being blessed when he was working for Laban. It was growing. It was just like some people go to work every single day, and then all the effort that they do at work, it brings forth tenfold. They get jobs that it normally takes 10 people to do. They knock them out in a certain amount of time. God is blessing them and moving it to get it done. And these jobs will use you, abuse you, because they're like, listen, they're trying to get paid off of it. They're trying to get their money. They want to keep you in service, right? So he had served for 14 years. And then after this, we know he served another 7. But we're going to round this up because we're about to get to the point where Jacob talks about, how much, Salakia, where the Bible talks about in the book of Jubilees, how much love Jacob actually had for Leah. Because what we read was he loved Rachel more and he hated Leah. But now we're going to get to the point where it shows and proves that he loved Leah more, and that her endurance and perseverance, like surviving through that situation, ended up giving her the spotlight to earn the love of Jacob more than Rachel. Okay, on that note, let's get it. Okay, so this is Jubilees 36, right? And that I went into Yasher and Jubilees so people could get a deeper understanding. Genesis, the whole book of Genesis, which is the first 2,500 years, is one book in the Bible, right? So you go through Jubilees, you go through Yasher, it gives you deeper breakdowns of what actually happened during those times, right? So let's get it. It says, and Leah, his wife, died in the 4th year of the 2nd week of the 45th Jubilee. And he buried her in the double cave near Rebekah, his mother. So he buried Leah next to his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah, his father's mother. So he buried her next to his mother, on the side in between his mother and his grandmother. First, that's the type of love he had for her. And all of her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah, his wife, with him, and to comfort him regarding her, for he was lamenting her, for he loved her. Right? So it just said, right, what we just read, that Jacob hated Leah, but now it's showing how much he loved her. He lamenting for her. He's crying. He's broke down. It's like the biggest piece of his life was taken away at this moment, right? It says, for he was lamenting for her. He loved her exceedingly after Rachel, her sister, died. For she was perfect and upright in all her ways, and honored Jacob. In all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word, for she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds which she had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly, for he loved her with all his heart and with his soul. Right? So that's why Leah is a great example, right? To all wives, because Leah was hated and she had to fight the feeling of being hated. Rachel wasn't hated. Rachel was loved, yet Rachel felt like she could be hated. She was planning for the future of, maybe I'm going to be hated if I don't have a child. But Leah was actually hated, and she never changed her way. She constantly remained righteous and upright and peaceable and loving to him. She constantly was willing to fight to try to get, or to make deals, and to try to get Jacob to come to her, to try to prove that he loved her, to try to get any time to get him to love her. I'm sorry, Salakia. Try to get him to come to her so that she could see, you do love me, or that he could see, you do love me. She would make deals with Rebekah. We didn't go over that, but I mean, deals with Rachel. We didn't go over that, but that was spoken of in the Bible. She made a deal with Rachel to have him for one night, because Rachel had his heart, but she wouldn't give up on him, because she was honoring herself, she was honoring God, and she was honoring her husband. Right? It says, so this is one of the biggest things. Leah never spoke a harsh word, regardless of how she was feeling. Right? She never said, what, you don't actually love me. You don't actually care about me. You care about all of these other girls. You care about my sister. Even Rachel, to the fact that she was so jealous of Leah, she gave him a handmaiden. In today's time, Rachel would be remarkable, because a woman in today's time would not give a man, or allow a man to have another woman just because he couldn't have a baby with her. Right? Because feelings and emotions play too much of a part in everything in today's society. Right? So despite not being loved, Leah loved him and honored him and respected him and fought for his time and fought for everything to do with him, because that was her husband. And at the end of the day, she was rewarded, because Jacob loved her the most, because he cared about her the most, because he was the most hurt when she left him. So imagine, she did all of that work, but then towards the end of their relationship, it flipped. Remember, Rachel died giving childbirth, right? Rachel died first. She died during giving childbirth. So yeah, Rachel died during childbirth of her second child, right? Benjamin, right? That's when Rachel passed away. So from that moment forward, he didn't have eyes but no one for Leah. And he leaned on Leah, and he loved Leah. So her endurance, how much she went through, it paid off at the end. See, and I brought this up because in modern times, we have people that think like, listen, I'm not feeling as if I'm loved. I'm not. So that's why marriages and things don't last. People are so quick to just give up on it knowing that they still want to be loved, knowing that they still want somebody to care about them, and they might have somebody who care about them. They just don't feel like they care about them in the way that they want them to. So they'll be quick to leave and abandon the marriage. And then what happens? They become adulterers. They end up marrying 10, 20, 30, 40 people. Because yeah, at the beginning you can always say, I could do good by myself. That's what Satan tells you. I could be good by myself. I could be good alone. I'll be fine by myself. And then eventually you want somebody else in your life. You want somebody there. Right? So when people aren't behaving like Leah, when people aren't enduring in making it through the times and having faith that everything that they're doing, their actions, what they're putting into the relationship is going to pay out eventually. But it takes patience. Think about how much time Leah had to endure, how much time Leah had to go through being hated before she became Jacob's number one love. It didn't happen overnight. And in these modern times, these guys be loving these women. That like they just not loving them the way that they want to be loved. Which love is just the action of that love. Like these guys be loving them. They be wanting to be with them, caring about them, but they might not do little things here and there, or they might be a little rude or whatever the case is. But everybody is messing up on relationships. Women mess up against men as well. Everybody's messing up, right? So instead of trying to find things to separate from another person or find things to do away with a person, we should be looking, and this is for men and women, is to find reasons to stay together, to dwell, to meditate on the good and not the bad, like Leah did. Leah found a way to endure through being hated and everything she went through in her life, to constantly show love, honor, and respect to the man she was with. And it ended up turning out for the best of her. It ended up turning out for the best because he loved her the most. So instead of always trying to find a reason to be upset, this is Satan's world. Everything in this world, if a person wants to, everything in this world could make them upset. But what's so crazy is you will have a person with a 90% of their day was good. 10% of their day was bad, and they can only reflect on the 10%. We have a problem with only picking out the bad, not relishing the good, not finding the good in the things that we enjoy, not finding the righteous in the peace that we do have, and running away from that, right? So think about it. If Leah was like, yo, I'm just not going, I don't want to have no baby by that dude. I'll just stay in my shelter. I'm not trying to be around him. Then she never would have had children. If she don't do what she needed to do to negotiate with Rachel, she never gets children. If she wouldn't have been as respectful and as honorable as she was, then she would not have been as loved as she was. She would not have been missed the way that she was missed. He wouldn't have been lamenting over her the way he was lamenting over her. But that happened because not only did she endure what she had to go through, but she never stopped doing and going above and beyond to try to please her husband and make sure that he was good and that everything in their relationship was good, even though she didn't feel loved. So with that, that's why I want to tell you, for this is, man, if you know women, if you got somebody in relationships, put them onto this video. And some people, this is going to offend them. And if you're offended by the things I said in this video, then that's mostly Satan. And I don't believe it's the actual person. Because Leah was one of the most righteous women in the Bible. She had to endure a lot. There was a lot of righteous women, but they didn't endure what she did by being hated by the person that they were married. That by being, that person got tricked into marrying her. Remember, he was tricked into marrying her. He didn't want to. So therefore he hated her. So if a person is upset by this message saying, well, we shouldn't be like Leah and this, that. No, this is what God would like for us to do in order to be righteous, right? As a woman, this is one of the perfect examples of how to stay committed to your husband, and how if you do stay committed and you don't slack on your duties and your deeds, that it's going to make your husband love you more at the end of the day. It's going to make him love you more and care about you more. If you quick to pull away from him and push him away and try to isolate him and cut off things that you were previously doing because you feel like, or maybe you were used, or it's only good when it's in these moments. Understand the only time Leah felt valued was when she got to lay down with Jacob and when they had children and Jacob would come and visit the children. If Leah had the option to sit up under Jacob the way Rachel used to sit up under Jacob and be valued in that manner, she would have took it. But then you also got to look at Rachel. She had the ability to sit up under Jacob all the time. He loved her. And she still was jealous. She still felt like she wasn't enough. So Satan attacks you, rather you the prettiest or the not prettiest or whatever the situation is. It's about fighting the attack with Satan, staying true to the commitment you made and honoring that commitment the way we're supposed to, because honoring that commitment, honoring the sanctity of marriage, the sanctity of laying with a person and becoming one, and doing the best that you can during your duties and praying about the rest, that is honoring God. That's honoring Yeshua. That's honoring Christ. That's honoring the heavens, the order that was created in the heavens. That's honoring that order. So let's not make excuses to honor the order, right? Leah, the example to all wives, how to fight your feelings with faith. On that note, I just want to say Thawada for watching this video. Kaula Ahaya. I know it's been a little minute since I had a Bible study, and I hope y'all really enjoy it. Send it to people y'all think need to hear this, because this world has people so caught up in the world. And it's so crazy because everybody feels like they're different or they're special. But most people are caught up in the world. A lot of people are caught up in the world, and they're caught up in their feelings, and they're not caught up in being righteous. You see, you know my videos, I pull out and I talk about how a lot of people are unrighteous, and I talk about unrighteous things, and I talk about the 613 laws in the Bible. But if you notice, I never tell somebody you're unrighteous. You've never heard me do that. You never heard me call somebody out and try to tell them, listen, you wicked, you this, because when I'm talking to y'all, when I'm making these videos and I'm describing things to y'all, I'm also talking to myself. I'm also talking to myself and using these same examples to better myself, to become more of a righteous person. So I'm not just on here just talking and giving y'all advice and telling you keep the 613 as if I don't try to keep them, right? And Lord knows I fail at some of them, but I'm proud to say that I've become, God has allowed me to understand the laws and to keep them for the most part, and to recognize when I'm breaking one of them and messing up. And I thank God that we have those 613 laws. Otherwise, we would just think a person is breaking a law or sinning based off of how we feel about a subject. God gave us a guidelines, and he said at the beginning, there shall be nothing added to it or taken away. So those 613 stand. Not a jot or jittle, like Christ says, not a jot or jittle. If anybody, not a jot or jittle, right? Until heaven and earth shall pass away. So we're sitting on earth and we can look up into the heavens. So none of that law has dissipated. And that law keeps us on track to be righteous and to do the right things. And yeah, we'll fall short. That's what Christ died for, is to give us grace. That's when people say, God knows my heart. That's what it's for, to give you grace, because God knows what you're doing something for. For example, if a person try to break into your house and then you kill them, that's not murder. That's why the law is good, because not all violence is bad. Like the Bible said, there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. Why would the Bible tell you it's a time for war if all war is bad? Right? There's a time to defend oneself. You have to sometime. Even Christ said to them when he told them to exchange that cloak to make sure that they had some swords. And what did they say? They said, we have a couple. We have a few already. And he's like, well, that is enough. Right? So there's a time to fight. There's a time for war. There's a time for everything. And that's what the law is. The 613 laws, that's what that does. It helps us know what time are we allowed to do different things, and what exactly aren't we allowed to do. So it's not our opinion. So there isn't no back and forth about what's righteous, because this has always happened. where people try to tell each other what righteous is based off of their feelings. When we got the law, we got the 613, which tell us exactly what righteousness is and exactly what unrighteousness is. So on that note, I just want to say, Thawada, I hope y'all let anybody who you think might need to hear this watch this video. And for men too. And for men too, because let me tell you, man, yeah, you could watch this video and learn the position and the effort and the endurance that your wife should have. But men should also watch this video so that they could learn, listen, you might not can't stand this woman right now. You might not can't stand some things about her, right? But that don't mean you might hate her like Jacob hated Leah, right? But that don't mean you won't end up loving her more than anybody else. Don't be quick to just throw things away, because when we do that, we're spitting in the face of God, right? This is for the men. So this is the lesson that men can gather from this, is that, listen, you could change. You might not feel like you like her now. You might can't stand her now. She might get on your nerves now, but she could very well be the love of your life. The biggest part of your heart missing once she leaves this earth, right? So this can help us become better men and better people, knowing that there could be a change, because you might have loved her when you first met her, and then after a while her looks changed, she got older. See, because people forget that. People live in their minds like they still 10. Like, we're not 10. I'm 39, so I'm not the person I was when I'm 25, right? And I'm not gonna be the same person I am when I'm 55 or 65, right? I'm going to change. I'm going to get older. I'm going to not look the same. My body won't be the same. Nobody stays the same. Typically, you get devalued. Now, a man's value tends to go up as they get older in age, because they become more wiser and smarter. They get more money, and women value money, status, and things like that. But most women lose value as they get older. You don't look the same. You get more wrinkles. Your face, like, the things won't be the same. So the mentality you had when you were 20 or 14 as a woman, or 30 as a woman, you can't have that same mentality when you're 40 and 50 and 60 as a woman. It doesn't work. You're no longer 20 or 30. You don't have the same attributes you had at that age. So now the thing that makes you great is your sweetness. That's your beauty. And this is not to say that you're not beautiful because you're older, but it's just common logic that you're not the same that you were when you were younger, right? This is not to say that, oh, once women hit a certain age, they're not beautiful. That would be madness. No, everybody has beauty. Each person has a beauty in them. But once you get older, you're not the same person that you were when you were younger. You don't carry those same characteristics. That's why you have so many bitter women over the age of 40 that's alone with no man, and they wonder why a man is not there for the long term any longer, because it's easy to get a guy who will woo you and say nice things for the first couple weeks and buy you flowers and roses just to get in your pants, and then they're on to the next one. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Even if you 80, 70, it's gonna be some guy trying to get into your pants. But that genuinely want to be committed with you and want to work things out and want to be with you for life, that's very rare. And people pass on that all the time because of they feel bad, like, I don't feel like he loves me, or I don't feel like he got enough money or got enough circumstances. And we're seeing stories now, plenty of stories, where men have been dumped or treated bad by women because they were in a hard time, and then they come up, make money, and now the woman's mad and jealous and feel like they made them. No, you were with him, and then you left him, and once he came up, you felt like you had a part of him doing that. But if you really felt like that, you would have never gave up on him and left in the first place. So that is the example. Be like Leah. Endure, persevere, and stay true. On that note, shalom.